Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah. We meet again, inshallah. We are starting off our new surah, Surah Zhariyat. Let's start off with the intention of seeking knowledge and teaching. I intend to seek knowledge and to teach, to benefit myself and to benefit others, to remind myself and to remind others, to profit myself and to profit others, to urge adherence to the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the sunnah of Rasulullah sallam, to invite to guidance and to guide to that which is good, seeking the face of Allah, His pleasure, His closeness, and His reward subhanahu wa ta'ala. Continue on with our Fatiha. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. Let's continue on with our dua. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Allahumma nawwir bil Qur'ani basari washrah bihi sadri wa atliq bihi lisani wasta'mil bihi badani wa qawwi bihi jinani wa asri bihi fahmi bihawlika wa quwwatika fa innahu la hawla wa la quwwata illa bika ya arhamar rahimin. والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين بفضل سبحانك ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين آمين آمين يا رب العالمين. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. We are going on to Surah Zhariyat. All right, introduction to the surah. This is a Makki surah and has 60 verses. It's a Meccan surah. It is revealed in the 11th year of the Prophet's mission. So we understand the 11th year is after the death of his beloved wife Khadijah radiallahu anha and his uncle Abu Talib bin Abdul Muttalib. It is a 67 surah revealed to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So within another 3 more years, 11, 12, and 13 years, that's when he lives. In another 2 more years, right? There will be another 20 more surahs to cover before we go on to the surahs in Medina. So within a span of 2 years, Rasulullah will be getting another 20 more surahs. Altogether, there are 86 surahs in Mecca and 28 surahs in Medina. 28 surahs in Medina. All right, name, background, and theme of this surah. The surah has been named after its first word, Zhariyat. You can see the pronunciation. The translation can be quite different, right? Zhariyat and Zhariyat, but this is a DZ and be quite difficult. All right, Zhariyat means the stormy, dusty winds, indicating the surah that starts with the word Zhariyat. All right. This surah is a twin of Surah Qaf. Surah Qaf is just before it, having the same theme, but in a more forceful tone. It expands a little on the historical examples of those destroyed for not believing, and cities and sites, more natural signs, both in number and in their profundity. All right, so we have been having quite a number of stories. It's already 67 surah stories have been coming in, and they have been mentioned again and again and again, right? But in different contexts, in different situations, and with different themes also. So we're going to look at the stories again. The emphatic tone of the warnings of punishment of the disbelievers in the surah suggests it was revealed after they had started sarcastically demanding that the punishment that they were being threatened with be expedited. Now, this is one of their ways of denouncing the claims of Rasulullah, the teachings of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They say he claimed, right? Did he claim? He claimed that there will be resurrection. But where is this resurrection? And one of the ways that they believe is a good reason to denounce the teachings of Rasulullah sallallahu is that their forefathers are not alive, they are all dead, they're gone. Show us, bring back the forefathers. So this is one of their ways. And another way is that bring on the punishment if you really are truthful. It's always the case. Bring on the punishment if you're really truthful. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala warns them again and again of the punishment that they will be getting. The mention of this demand indicates that it was revealed after Surah Qaf. In response to the disbelievers' objections and reservations about the resurrection and hereafter, the surah presents some signs of Allah's power for their reflection. All right, so their objections, their reservations, their disbelief, right? They are always finding reasons not to believe in resurrection because resurrection means accountability and they don't want to be resurrected. The surah presents some signs of Allah's power for their reflection, the signs that are demonstrated by the systems and processes operating in the universe and in human beings themselves. All right, so there's lots of signs around for us to ponder over, and these signs will bring us to believe that, to be convinced that there is resurrection and this world is not the end and there will be resurrection, there will be a hereafter. Similarly, historical examples have been cited to impress upon them that if they continue to disbelieve, the destruction will be inevitable at the end of their respite. So this is the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to show them there are examples around them which they can see, right? They have given time to ponder over this and they will eventually be destroyed after the time is up if they do not believe in the prophets of Allah. In this case, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. About the natural signs of the universe cited in the Quran, the reader should always keep in mind that they are cited using words that could be understood by all kinds of reflective audiences at their own level of knowledge and intellect and still arrive at the right conclusion. So we are aware that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has in many times referred to the him varying the various approaches to make people reflect. And of course, people of all different intellectual levels, different background, different understanding, different knowledge. So they see things differently, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has very creatively brought these ideas to the front so that everyone can see it in the way they understand it. Also, their meaning becomes clearer and more precise as human knowledge and understanding of the phenomena cited as science grow. So clearer, more precise. When they have knowledge, they have understanding of different phenomena. Well, they do understand things differently. Like for example, we are aware that science have opened our mind to a lot of different conclusions about situations around us, about phenomena around us, and we see things differently. Right, we'll look at it also, inshallah. That scientific research and advancement help people develop a better understanding of the science cited in the Quran. All right, so that's introduction. So a lot of reflections, a lot of bringing back the past, consequences of disbelief, a lot of finding means and ways of convincing people about the hereafter. All right, we'll continue under the merits of recitation of the surah. It is narrated from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that the rewards for reciting this surah is 10 times the number of moving winds or breezes. So that's a lot of rewards there. We are unaware of the number of moving winds and breezes around us. Right? So the whole world. It is narrated by Imam Sadiq radiallahu anhu. There is, you can see this AS, and I said radiallahu anhu, I'm quite used to saying radiallahu anhu. But there is, I've read hadith in which, or hadith or some kind of, I can't remember what it was. But normally the descendants of Rasulullah, we do actually refer to them as alayhi salam. Because they are very knowledgeable people, and Rasulullah has also mentioned that the ulama of the ummah of Rasulullah has the same function, role as the prophets of Bani Israel. Okay, of course, also in honoring the Ahlul Bayt of Rasulullah sallallahu, the family of Rasulullah sallallahu. But Imam Sadiq is a great grandson of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He says, one who recites Surah Al-Zhariyat in the day or at night, Allah Almighty will improve his life and sustenance, providing him with abundant provision and illuminating his grave with a light shining to the day of resurrection. As provided he acts upon Quranic injunctions. So just don't read and not be a Muslim, then that's nonsensical. If you read Quran and don't want to pray, then not really believing, proper belief, in the teachings of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So that's Zhariyat, 60 verses, 60 short verses, inshallah. Right, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. We go on to the words first. But zhariyat, as mentioned, this is, we know there's a wa. Here, wa is wow of swearing. It's not n. So wow is wow of swearing. How do we know it is a wow of swearing? When you look at the ism here, the ism that is being sworn on, right, is in its jar state. Right, here we see al-dhariyat, and alif ta here is a kasra here, plural. It tells us this is a plural word, and it's a female plural word because it's alif ta there. And when it's a kasra, it can be either nasab or nasab or jar. But of course, here the wow we can make it wow is not a jar word. Sorry, not a jar huruf jar. So it must be the wow is make it swearing. Wadhariyati. So T that kasra makes it a swearing. Wiqra. Okay, wiqra with the word waqar. No, I didn't give it a meaning. Sorry. Allahu Akbar. فالجاريات فالمقسمات. All right, wiqra is a burden. All right, let's just put in the meaning. Wadhariyat is the wind tracks. A few meanings there. We'll have the wind tracks. This one is burden, and this one is the ships, those that float. Those that float. And this one is those that gives division. Give division. So, right, along those lines. Later on, we'll go on to the meaning of the word further. Sorry. All right, wiqra is mentioned is burden. So we can see this is a nasab here. Of course, it is ism, and here again female. Fal jariyat. The jariyat comes into a jariya. Jariya is to flow. All right, like we have amal jariya, deeds that flows on. It means you still get it even after you pass on. So again, female. All right, and the fa is then. So then those that float. Is far is a then there. And another then here. All right. And this word is muqassimat. All right. Root word is the meme makes it an someone, right? Or thing. Qasama. Qasama is to divide. Again, it's female entity. Fal muqassimat, a female entity here. Plural again. Okay, let's go on to the verse. Wadhariyati dharwa. All right, Allah swears by the scattering wind. So you start off, it cannot be a nasab, right? So and it's not nasab, so it must be jar. And if it's jar and there's a wow, then it is a swearing. So that's how we come to the conclusion that it is a swearing. Wadhariyat. So dhariyat by the scattering wind. All right, scattering wind. Scattering. It's supposed to be scattering wind. Not wind track. So wind track was the other one. Scattering wind. Winds. Of course, we didn't have winds. All right, scattering. So the root word here, you can see the root word is repeated here. Dharawa is a root word here. Dharawa is a root word here. Of course, the wow is changed to a ya. That's in English, sorry, in Arabic, wow, alif, and ya, wow, ya. Right? These are called weak letters, and the weak letters can disappear in conjugation or be changed to alif, wow, and ya. This is wow, ya, and alif. Wadhariyati dharwa. Dharwa means scattering, same root word, scattering wind. By those that we know with the winnowing. It's quite a very strange English word here. This is by A.J. Avery. And just bringing it up so that we realize that there are such translations which can be quite difficult for us to actually understand. So we have the first one here, by the scattering wind, scattering. Dharwa, right? Dharwa, why did I actually put it scattering? Somehow, Dharwa is in Nasab. Nasab state tends to have a function of emphasizing. All right, so in English, we do that by the scattering with a real scattering, that kind of thing. And if you look at the other meanings given, other translation given, right, by this is the various translations, Sahih International, by those winds scattering dust dispersing. So this one is trying to also emphasize the scatteringness of the winds, and by those that winnow, speak hall with a winnowing. Then you've got by the winds that scatter broadcast. Quite a difficult translation there. What does a broadcast actually mean, right? He might have a certain, when he translated, so when translators translate Quran, they have a certain understanding of that word, and they try to get the best English word that would suit that understanding. These are people with very profound knowledge in Arabic, but somehow maybe getting that precise English word might not be very easy. So that is why we do need tafsir to expand on the meaning of the words. Shakir says, I swear by the wind that scatters far and wide. But so use the word I swear, of course, by here we do understand means swearing, right? By the wind that scatters far and wide. So again, emphasizing the scatteringness of the wind. Right? By the winds which carry dust particles. That sounds quite difficult, quite different from the others, in the sense that carrying doesn't actually come to scattering. But we might call it scattering also, because as it carries the dust particles, when the wind actually stops, the dust particles will just be dispersed. And Mosihan by the winds that scatter dust. So we talk about scattering dust. We look at it, inshallah, and I'll breathe. Sorry, I was wrong. It was Pikhol, which is by those that we know with the winnowing. And Abri by the swift scatterers. Again, all right, the meaning is there, but he saw it in a different way, right? The swift scatterers. All right, scattering it is, but it is. All right, let's go on. So we do have a good idea of what these two words actually mean. Allah is swearing by the wind that scatters, the scattering wind that's a scattering, right? A real scattering by the wind. Right? The wa signifies an oath. However, the oaths which are sworn by such objects are not meant to sanctify these objects. Okay, this is an opinion of one scholar. All right, I'm just opening up our views to various opinions. Right, and we are just looking at it, and we understand that there are differences of opinions concerning the various meanings of the words that are brought forth, that are found in the Quran, especially in this surah. The purpose is to bear witness to the truth of a claim which is mentioned later or is evident from the context. So he's saying that it is not to sanctify, right? Some people say that when Allah swears by, some scholars have said that when Allah swears by anything, that particular item is something to be honored, right? But he's saying that it's just a matter of that item being a witness. So when I swear by Allah, that means I swear in the name of Allah, it means Allah becomes a witness. But of course, where Allah is concerned, Allah is sanctified, right? So this particular scholar is not on the view that these items are sanctified items. But there are other opinions of other scholars also. So the purpose is to bear witness to the truth of a claim which is mentioned later or is evident from the context. Now, when we swear, I swear I didn't do this. So I'm swearing that the claim that I make, I swear the claim is called, there must be a claim for me to swear on, something that I would like to swear on, all right? Thus, this oath is meant to bear witness, all right? Is meant to bear witness. This oath is meant to bear witness. All right, this oath too is meant to bear witness. So he's saying that it's not really sanctifying the item, but just to bear witness to the fact that Allah swears by them. It would be very meaningful if it's translated as bears witness. So he's saying that if you translate as bears witness, then your idea you understand things better. But actually, by swearing, you have already, in that sense, calling on to things to bear witness to certain things. You don't need to mention it actually. The word zhariyat refers to winds which scatter dust. Right? So that's one opinion there. This word is used in the attribute of the winds, and so common has it become for the noun, it qualifies that it is used in its place as its substitute. All right, when you talk about the attribute, okay, where Arabic is concerned, we've got only three main parts of speech. Right, we've got the ism, and the ism in Arabic, of course, covers nouns, adverbs, and adjectives. All right. Then we have our fi'al. Fi'al are the verbs, and present tense, past tense, a command, and things. And then we have the huruf, the letters, like conjunctions and prepositions and such. All right. Now, so he's saying that it is an attribute of the wind. That means it is not the wind. All right, it's not the wind. Attribute of the wind means it is an adjective describing the wind. That's why he's saying it is an adjective describing the wind, and so common has it become for the noun it qualifies that it is used in its very place as its substitute. So the description of the wind is used in place of the noun itself, and it is understood as, it qualifies to be in that place. So it's almost as good as a noun. Isn't it some anyway, where the Arabs are concerned? All right. The addition zarwa after zhariyat adds emphasis and stress in the meaning conveyed, just as in the case of the verb has been emphasized. All right. So here, zarwa, as mentioned, zarwa is nasab. And one of the functions of nasab is to emphasize. That is why I actually translated it as by the scattering winds. Now, when you say by the scattering wind, we can see that it is a noun, but actually is by the attribute of the scattering wind, as what they say. Yeah, he's taking here, he's explaining here, a real scattering, right? A real scattering. So it emphasizes it's a real scattering. Definitely it scatters. It becomes difficult at times to translate such an emphasis, right? Now here, if the word fierce, if you are not comfortable with what I actually wrote, because I mean, in our learnings of English, our study of English, we do know that using the word scattering means it is emphasizing it. Nouman Ali Khan did mention that the older translators, they are very good in Arabic, no doubt, but they might have some difficulty in the nuances of English language, right? So let's see how it goes. Yeah, if the word fierce is added to the winds, then the intended meaning would be conveyed. So where he's concerned, if you translate and say by the scattering winds with a very fierce scattering, then it would give you the extra meaning to it by emphasizing the fierceness of the scattering. So Allah states an oath by the winds that move and scatter things such as dust, grain, pollen, clouds, and other material known or unknown to us. All right, so basically the scattering doesn't confine, it's not only confined to dust, as some of the translation has mentioned. It could be anything, basically it scatters. And you can even see like the whirlwind catching things all over the place after it dies down, And of course, we know there's lots of things being scattered by the wind, and as mentioned, known or unknown to us. Three different interpretations, all right? Just now was a translation of the word as known to its meaning. But there are some translators who actually interpret instead of translate. We have seen the various, just now, also some of the translation actually interpret instead of translate. By the winds dispersing the clouds or dust. So we can see here it's already interpreting, right? So the winds disperse, the interpretation is in confining it to the clouds and the dust. By the angels who disperse the clouds. So this particular interpretation that is completely different, right? And is saying that the zhariyat means the dispersal, right? A dispersion of things could be the angels, right? He has his reasons, of course, to do that. Then we have another translation, interpretation by the woman who disseminate generations of mankind through conception and pregnancy. So this woman, they give birth and they scatter people all over the world, in a sense. All right. So interesting just to look at the various opinions, and then we'll just, look at the other suggestions of the scholars. All right. Falhamilati wiqra. Falhamilati wiqra. By the hamil. Hamil, as we know, means to carry. But hamilat, again, the fa continues on with the wa. Wa, and then the fa is then. So it is continuation of the oath again. Hamilat, as we see, is plural, and it is in its jar state. Wiqra is, it has a kasra. I'm saying it's a jar state. It's swearing. Swearing has a kasra. So it's a swearing. Falhamilat. And hamilat is continuous also. Wiqra is a load, a burden. So I put it as a burden so we can see translation says that, and those that bear the burden. Sai International says, and those clouds carrying a load of water. So you can see, right? Basically, the meaning of the Arabic word is carrying a burden. So this Sai Translation International is saying that the one that carries is a cloud, right? And the burden is the water. The next one says, and those that bear the burden of the rain. Okay, let's speak out. So again, a translation with interpretation in some sense. And those that lift and bear away heavy weights, rather difficult for a lot of us to understand that, right? Because he adds on the lifting and bearing away. So the lift is like carrying, all right? Bear away heavy weights would be the burden, right? Again, the wiqra is the burden. And those clouds bearing the load of minute things in space. It's a bit more difficult here, right? But it's still talking about the clouds because the clouds carry water. But now the bearing of the load of minute things in space, for us, we might not be able to identify with this because we don't understand. If he used the word space here, as in his translation, where we are concerned, the space is an empty void, and there's a void, and there's no matter in space. And so, I mean, of course, there's a matter as in planets in space, right? But the space in itself, right, is actually nothingness, right? All right, so that's quite difficult for us. The next one, and the burden bearers. All right, so that's him, burden bearers, carries burden, and that's it. Falhamilati wiqra. Right, so when we explain further, we do understand now where these words are coming from and how it means. Falhamilati wiqra, right? By those who are carriers, the carriers, right? A burden, a heavy load. When adjectives are conjugated by the particle fa, then this signifies two things. So this is again an adjective, right, of a certain ism where the Arabs are concerned. Firstly, there is a sequence within them, and secondly, these adjectives qualify the same noun. Again, this is opinion. You're going to see that there are varied opinions on this, and they're going to discuss things. So basically, these are things which, differences of opinions because of the difficulty of understanding what's happening here. There is a sequence in them, and second, so there is a sequence because of the fa is then, so that causes it to be a sequence. And then he's saying that these adjectives qualify the same noun, so that's his opinion, right? So that means it must be with the wind also. If they say the first one is the wind, zhariyat as winds, so scatters, and hamilat are also wind, which carries things. So the wind scatters, and the wind can be carrying loads. That means carrying clouds, right? Carrying rain in itself. So as per this linguistic rule of Arabic, the three adjectives which are mentioned here are necessarily of the winds. The three adjectives will be our al-dhariyat, al-hamilat, and wiqra. Wiqra is the state of, it sounds like a noun, but it's supposed to be an adjective. The opinion of those who have regarded them to be adjectives or separate nouns is against this rule, as well as the parallels of the Quran in this regard. So this is the opinion by looking at the linguistic, the grammatical items here, right? This particular scholar has come to conclusion that this refers to the same thing, but explained or described in different ways by using different adjectives. All right, the interpretations by the clouds bearing the heavy weight of rain. So this is continuation from the previous interpretation. Then by the angels. So one group says it's the wind and then comes the clouds. Another group says the angels scattering, bringing things around, and then the angels are also responsible for making the clouds heavy with the weight of rain to flow. So the idea of the weight of the rain still comes here, but the angels are doing that and not the wind. But the woman carrying the burden of pregnancy. So this is the third opinion talking about women scattering their offsprings, women carrying the burden of pregnancy. فَالْجَارِيَاتِ يُسْرًا. Fal, again the fal comes in, then jariyat from the word I mentioned again. So, and those sailing, right, yusra is easily. Yusra, sailing easily with ease. And those that glide with ease, so gliding, sailing, jariyat. And he puts it upon the sea. So already this particular translator has decided that it's going to be the boats, the ships on the sea, right? Sailing. So use the word sailing here, right? We can use the word floating, jariya, which, as you say, so we use the word jariya, that flows, flowing, those that flow easily. All right. Faljariyati yusra. So this is another set of items. Sai International, and those ships sailing with ease. So you can see that there is a move away from the wind. But whatever the case is, right, the wind is also involved in causing the ship to sail. All right, because you talk about sailing, right, then the winds are important. And those that glide with ease upon the sea. So you can see, second opinion, it's still the ship. And those that flow with ease and gentleness. So again, this ease and gentleness there because of the yusra there. But now it talks about flowing. Flowing could be the ship also. And the smooth runners, Abri sends to find some kind of direct meaning to it. All right. Smooth here would be the yusra, the runners would be the jariyat, the one that floats. Okay. All right, so we see that. But the ships that easily float on the water, making use of the characteristics Allah has given to water, shipping, and the whole universe. All right, so this particular one says the ship, right? And it is how it flows in the water. But of course, as we do understand, right, it is not only the water, but it is the wind that means a lot to ships that sail. If there's no wind, the ships cannot move. If there's a strong wind, the ship might be in a big problem. And if the wind blows the other way, the ship will not be able to go to where it wants to go. Alright, so a lot of things to consider in the movement of the sheep, and it's with ease. That means it is with the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that the sheep, Allah swears by the sheep, not not any but not any kind of sheep, but the sheep that sails with ease. Three interpretations: by the ship floating in the sea with ease, by the planets, the sun and the moon circling in their orbits. We've got that in Surah Yasin, where Allah mentions about them floating in their own orbits. All right. Then by the winds that move around. Right, the wind stays, and somehow the pregnant woman has disappeared, and the angels has also disappeared, right? Because it's talking about different things already. Although one scholar or a few of the scholars, some scholars who actually insist that all of them refers to the wind. So that is why he goes on to say by the winds that move around. The attribute zhariyat yusra also qualifies winds. The view of people who regard them to refer to ships is incorrect. This is an opinion, and we will look at another state which says that definitely is going to be ships. The word yusra means slow and soft. This is a common norm that first fast and dust-laden winds blow. Then they gather clouds from various places and stack them in layers on the place where they have been divinely directed to drench. And these winds become slow and soft and they cause rain to come down. What he's saying is that there's this wind carrying all things fast, moving very fast, dust-laden, could be water, right? And then they gather the clouds from various places and stack them in layers. So that means when the rain is to fall, right, the clouds has to be heavy, right? Not just thin clouds. Heavy clouds which are stacked one over the other. And then when the wind is to let go of or to allow the clouds to let the rain fall, right? The rain will fall from the clouds, then the wind cannot be strong enough, that strong, because the wind has been instructed to blow the clouds to a certain place where rain will fall. So the wind becomes slow and soft. فَالْمُقَاسِمَاتِ أَمْرًا. The word qasama, as mentioned just now, means to divide, to distribute. There's meaning of that: distribution, the division, right? Qasim, qasama. The name Qasim also has that same root word. Again, the fal muqasimat is female plural here. Then the distributors amra, a command. Right? So as mentioned, this is nasab, which is emphasizing it is being commanded to distribute. And those who distribute by command, all right, now they talk about by command here, because the command, there's no preposition there, but to make the sentence proper in English, it is talking about by a command. A command. فَالْمُقَسِّمَاتِ أَمْرًا, Sahih International, and those angels apportioning each matter. So he's changing. So if Sahih first to wind, the next one is it's boats, sailing ships, and the final one is angels. Because it says, and those who distribute by command. All right, not mentioning who distribute. Then you've got, and those that distribute and apportion by command. Again, the word distribute and portion is there. But the angels will distribute the affairs, so the angels come in, although that's the understanding of various scholars that this one refers to angels, muqassimati amra. And those angels will distribute provisions, rain, and other blessings by Allah's command. So there's addition there, right? But there's a command given. Abri and the partitioners, rather difficult. All right. Then these are the distributors of affairs, or the angels serve as agents of the affairs of creation. All right, so qasimat are those who distribute, who divide, right? And the angels are the agents of the affairs of creation. What it means is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has appointed the angels, right, to bring in the various commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to emphasize the commands of Allah. I mean, to put in place the various commands of Allah, or to act on the various commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or even the various decrees of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Responsible for sending down rain and distributors of the provisions of creatures, right? Affairs of creatures, the angels are the one that are responsible to do that. They are in charge of the affairs of creation. They are given the responsibility to distribute the affairs of creation, or to determine the affairs of creation, to be responsible for sending down rain, and to distribute the provisions of creatures. We know that these are the various functions of the angels. That is why the Arabs during the Prophet's time, the Quraysh, right? No, not in the Quraysh. Many of them out there in the Arabian Peninsula, they actually prayed to the angels, because they believe the angels is in charge of administrating all these various affairs. Affairs of creation, affairs of sending down rain, affairs of providing provision. So they pray to the angels and hope that the angels will actually intercede for them in case harm is to befall them, because the angels are in charge. So hoping also at the same time that the angels will give them benefits from whatever they are distributing. Since each kind of angels are the kinds of angels and different, they have different categories of angels, group of angels in charge of sustenance, group of angels in charge of affairs of people, groups of angels in sides of water, rain, and things like that, for fulfilling certain duties, so that the world of creation be preserved through order. It's not that Allah can't do it on his own, but it is about ordering to show people that there is system and everything. The word fal muqassimati amra would mean that whatever had been decided for something, or what had been ordained for it, was received by it. So by the distribution command, the commanded command, right? Distributing a command by the distributor. That means whatever is to be distributed among human beings as commanded by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The verse means that after bringing forth clouds on their backs, these winds divide matters, which means that they rain down whatever water had been directed to a particular area. So the Mufassirin, or this group of scholars that believe that all four refers to the wind, right? So in this particular sense here, where the wind is supposed to distribute, so the winds are ordered to distribute the rain accordingly. So the clouds goes here, the rain falls, the clouds goes there, maybe the rain doesn't fall, the clouds goes to another place. So this is how they consolidate the fact that all this refers to the wind. Some places are completely drenched, and some places are left half thirsty, and some places are left totally dry. And if the Almighty directs them, they completely flood a place, which as a result is utterly routed. It's gone. Right. So that's where the distribution comes in, and they do not attribute it to the angels, but to the wind in itself. These multifarious effects caused by the winds at various places are amazing. So we saw from the start, the wind that scatters. After it scatters, it actually carries a burden that was carrying the clouds. And then it carries a cloud. And then it, before this we had, and then it drops, carries a hamilati hamla, right? And then it distributes, or it sails, it moves, the child so sails with ease, and they did explain that. And then after that, it distributes. All right. They deal with one nation in one manner, and with another in another manner. For one nation, these merciful clouds descend as glad tidings. For another, these clouds stir up the torment of storms. So the wind are also agents of punishment also. And the winds bring clouds, and the rain can be devastating. Some rain is good news because it helps to water the fields, right? Good for agriculture. Right. The commentators have distributed the commentary of Al-Jariyati Yusra and Al-Muqassimati Amra. Right? Al-Jariyat Yusra, that means the sailing, right? Those that sail with ease, and the other one, those that distribute by command. One group has preferred the view or held this meaning as admissible, that by these two also amend the winds. Right? So this is one group, all of all are winds. That is the same very winds and transport the clouds and spreading over different parts of the earth, distribute the water as and where required according to Allah's command. And we have gone through this, we're just emphasizing here. The other group holds that Al-Jariyati Yusra implies fast-moving boats, ships. Right? We saw that also. And Al-Muqassimati Amra implies or gives, is referred to the angels who distribute among the creatures their shares and the provision according to Allah's command. So we do understand these two camps, right? One camp of scholars, all four refers to the wind. Another camp of scholars, first two refers to the wind, right? And then the third one is sailing boats, and the fourth one is angels. According to tradition, Umar radiallahu anhu explained this very meaning of these two sentences and said, had I not heard this from Rasulullah, I would not have mentioned it. On this very basis, Allama Alusi has expressed, as a scholar, has expressed the opinion it is not permissible to take any other meaning of these sentences than this. And those who have taken any other meaning have taken undue liberties. That means they have decided to interpret it according to their own understanding, not according to what has been mentioned by Rasulullah, because Umar has made it clear that Rasulullah has mentioned this. But Hafiz ibn Kathir says that this tradition has weak links of the transmitters. And on this basis, it cannot be said with absolute certainty that Rasulullah might himself have given this commentary of these sentences. All right, so the commentary that was given by Umar was that it's the third one is a sailing boat, sailing ships, and the fourth one are angels. So we'll see that again later, right? So that is why scholars are of different opinions, because of the fact that they see the hadith not, it's a da'if hadith that has got some weak links, so it's a da'if. So it might be said by Rasulullah or it might not be said by Rasulullah. And so they come out with their own conclusions concerning the word fa, the letter fa, which indicates that it refers to one item, right? That is the wind, because it's a fa. But it's wa, swearing, and the fa, fa, fa. So then, so the then, as mentioned in Arabic linguistic structures, it refers to one item. There is no doubt that from a good number of the companions and the immediate followers, only the second commentary has been reported, but a good number of commentators have given the first commentary also, and it fits in better with the context. So there are those who actually consider all four to be wind, companions, sahabas of Rasulullah, and there are those who consider it not, right, referring to the winds for all four. Shah Rafiuddin, Shah Abdul Qadir, and Maulana Mahmud al-Hassan also have preferred the first meaning in their translations of the Quran. Ali bin Abi Talib radiallahu anhu ascended the mimbar in Kufa and declared, any ayah in the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and any sunnah from Allah's messenger you ask me about today, I will explain them. So he came out and declared that he is able to explain whatever you have issues with. As we are aware, Rasulullah is close contact with Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu, and of course Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu was married to the daughter of Rasulullah Sayyidatina Fatima radiallahu anha, and he is of the very great knowledge among the Sahabas of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Ibn al-Qawa stood up and said, so this is an incident in Kufa where Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu was the Amirul Mu'minin. We know those of us who have gone through the history of the caliphates, right? We know this is not easy, and it was a difficult time for Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu because of the contention that Muawiyah claims to, the claim of Muawiyah that he should be ruling part of the Islamic Empire at that time. So Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu was confined to Iraq, while Muawiyah took control of Syria and Palestine. All right. So he asked, O leader of the faithful, so it's Amirul Mu'mineen, what is the meaning of Allah's statement, وَالذَّارِيَاتِ ذَرْوَةً? Ali said, the wind. Then the man asked, فَالْحَامِلَاتِ وَقْرًا? He says, the clouds. So you can see the wind coming in, right? We saw the first meaning, the winds that scatter. Next one, the clouds that carry a burden, the water. And then we've got, the man asked again, فَالْجَارِيَاتِ يُسْرًا? The ships. So Ali is of the opinion that they are the ships. The man asked, فَالْمُقَسِّمَاتِ أَمْرًا? He said, the angels. So that's Ali's opinion, radiallahu anhu. So some scholars said, Al-Jariyat Yusra refers to the stars that float in their orbits with ease. This would mean that the things mentioned were ascendant in their order, beginning with the lower, that's the wind, then mentioning the higher one. After that, that's the clouds. And then moving on to the planets, right? Higher up planets, right? And finally, Muqassimat, the angels, right? So the angels, right up to the angels. You see various opinions again. So one winds, then comes the clouds, and then comes the planets. It's moving because the Quran did mention about the planets that float, on this orbit, and then we've got the angels. The winds bring the clouds, the stars are above them, and the angels who distribute by Allah's order are above that. And they descend with Allah's legislative orders and the decrees He determines. All right, another opinion. The first four verses describe the attributes of winds, the functions they perform, and the way they can be very useful or very destructive. Some people attribute the third verse to boats and the fourth verse to angels, but none of those interpretations is valid either logically or linguistically. We've gone through this. We'll look at a little bit of a difference here. All four verses describe properties of winds uniformly expressed by the successive phrases connected by the conjunction fa, indicating that all attributes pertain to the same thing. By this one, then this one, then this one, then this. You can't say then if, according to this scholar, if they are different things. Right, it's mentioned that we heard just now the explanation of Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu, and they has mentioned that there are some weak links there. So not all of the scholars take that of Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu. Sayyidina Umar also has the same opinion, and Sayyidina Umar is very unhappy with people who try to create disorder or to create confusion by referring to such verses with meanings which are not really confirmed, not solid in itself. In Allah's plan for the earth, the stormy winds play two roles. They are the main instrument of maintaining the water cycle, lifting up the vapor and causing precipitation, that's raining. And they also have been one of the instruments used by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to punish the rejectors of messengers in this world. And those who reject the prophets of Allah, they are punished usually by wind. We've got a few of them. The people of Ad, they're destroyed by the wind. The people of the wind's always coming by. The people of Ad is mainly the wind. Thamud, sound seems to be a loud cry. And then the Shu'aib was the wind. And then for the people of Yunus, they saw the wind coming and they got frightened because they are aware that winds come with different instructions from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then the people of Lot, it's of course, it's an earthquake, right? And then the people of Nabi Nuh, the wind comes in play, so with the rain coming in there. All right, distributing and delivering the decree implies their role in distributing different amounts of precipitation at different places, as well as their role in destroying the rejectors and the messengers in the previous nations. So this role of wind is further underscored by the historical examples given later on in the surah. All right, so in this vein, in this direction, a tradition is narrated from Imam Sadiq radiallahu anhu alayhi salam, as per which he said, no one is allowed to take an oath unless he swears by Allah Almighty, but he may swear by any of his creatures. Almighty swears by these creatures since they are of great benefit. So we can see again a difference in opinion here. The previous scholar was saying that that these things that are being sworn, that Allah swears by, right, are not really because of their greatness, but more as a witness to what Allah is going to say. But here we have Imam Sadiq saying that no one can swear by anything. Only Allah can swear by his creatures. If you want to swear, if you need to swear, but swearing is not encouraged, right? Is to swear by the Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No one is going to swear by the pen. Oh, Allah swears by the pen, so I want to swear by the pen. No, you can't do that, right? Only Allah can swear by this of his creatures, and when you swear, it is of great benefit. Because these things are important, right? Creations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Divine unity is also further substantiated through such oaths, right? So by this oath, we are there is understanding of the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The fundamentals of the physical world include these four things. Even if one of the four fails to function or transgress its bounds, the affairs of all mankind and also all creatures shall be ruined. There's four things here mentioned: scattering, right? Carrying, moving with ease, and finally distribution of affairs, right, are important, very important functions, right? And if one of them fails, then there will be discord. And so that shows that Allah is the one who instructs, and there cannot be many instructors, or else everything will be in discord, right? For example, here, as in the examples given here, Allah swears by the wind that scatters, and the scattering is very important. It's whatever they want, they are meant to scatter, and they carry things, they carry the loads of waters, and then to clouds and things like that, and then they move softly when it's time for them to drop the rain, and when the clouds is to drop the rain, and then it is distributed accordingly. Right? So it is only one God who does it. If there's more than one God, then everything will go into disarray. All right. Innama tu'aduna lasadiq. Innama, surely ma is that. Surely that you are promised, that with which you are promised to adun. We can see this is a ta here, is a you, and you all, Allah is talking directly to those people. That means the Quraysh. The word wa'id, we will look at the various meanings of the word wa'id, and here we see the word promised being used. To aduna la sadiq, la lam of emphasis. Sadiq is true, right? From the word is confirmed. Yes, sadiq, one who confirms, but is one who knows that it's going to be true. Innama tu'aduna la sadiq. Though that wherewith you are threatened is indeed true. All right, so we can see the word promised and the word threatened is used. Right, some scholars actually are not in favor of the word threatened, but they prefer the word warned. Right, warned because when people are threatened, the word threat actually in English has a shade of something that might not be true. This is a threat. It is not a warning. When you warn someone, then it becomes something that's true. Right. So again, differences of opinion of the use of threatening and warning and promise. And promise here. Innama tu'aduna. Tu'adun, we also see that it is fi'al mudari, but it's passive. Passive, when you see the u and then a, you know it is passive. Tu'aduna. Innama tu'aduna la sadiq. The word used in the original is aidun, aid, wa'id, aid, all right? If it is derived from wa'id, the meaning would be that which you are being promised. So the word wa'id means promise. And if it's from the word wa'ad, so wa'ad is promise, wa'id is threatened. Wa'ad is promise. So the Quranic letter is better to use Arabic, it's easier to explain. Wa'id is to threaten or to warn. Right? That which you are being threatened with, as mentioned. Or the word warning is a better word to be used than the word threaten. So as regards the context, the second meaning is preferable because the context, as mentioned, this particular surah is all about, it's there because at that point in time, the Quraysh has been, in disbelief of the resurrection and things like that. And they are challenging the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, right, to bring on what's being promised or being warned against as regards the context, right? So they prefer the second meaning, that means to translate it as a threat or a warning, I would say. Only that what you are being warned is definitely true, definitely going to be confirmed. It's confirmed thing. Right, for the addressees, that means those people who are being talked to, particularly for the Quraysh, are the people who were lost in disbelief, polytheism, and sin, and were not prepared to believe that they would be held accountable sometime in the future and would be rewarded or punished accordingly. So these are the people that is being addressed, right? They are not believers. They disbelieve in the Prophet. They have gods, and they commit sin, and they're not believing that there will be a resurrection and they'll be punished accordingly. It's why I've taken to adun, as I mentioned, to adun in the meaning of wa'id and not of wa'ad. Wa'ad is promise, wa'id is threatened or warned. All right, never mind. So that's just a bit of a discussion. Eh? The word tu'adun is from the word wa'ada and covers all things promised by the Prophet. So when you talk about promise, so this is another opinion which says it's anything that the Prophet promises. It's going to happen. They include the hereafter, reward and punishment, mercy and ruthlessness. I'm not sure why do they use the word ruthlessness. I would use the word fairness. Allah punishes a person out of his justice, not because he's ruthless. These are the words that people actually use in the tafsirs. And somehow, most probably, they have a certain understanding of the word ruthlessness, inshallah, and not as, as we do understand it in our own in the English language. So it covers anything. It is not only specific to a punishment, all right? If it's a punishment, warning them that there is resurrection, warning them that they will be raised up again from the dead, right? It's our warnings. For those who are evil, this become warnings. But for those who are believers, right, this is a point of making them understand. And so, with that belief in being resurrected, being accounted for the actions, right, and the end of the world, they move on to becoming more observant of the rules of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, reward and punishment. So it covers a lot. However, since the scholar talking, I'm inclined to believe that the word tu'adun is from the word wa'id, and here it refers to a specific punishment which necessarily afflicts its addressees who deny their message. So this is one opinion of a scholar, of a few scholars also, of course, that particularly talking about the threats or the warnings that Allah has given throughout this many years, 10 years, 11 years of the Prophet's life in Mecca. Right? Not just a promise, as it is, we are aware that if we obey Allah, Allah promises us Jannah, Allah gives us reward. So that's a promise, right? But if you disobey Allah, then you are warned against the punishment. Can it be a promise as well? A promise that you will be punished. In other words, sorry, that's a mistake. All right. Allah has promised mankind that He will reward their good actions with what is better, and that He will requite their bad deeds with what is bad. If He delays holding them to account during their lives on earth, He will ignore doing so in the life to come. He will not ignore doing so in the life to come, where all reckoning and accounting will inevitably take place. There was a question yesterday, somebody brought up a question saying that if Allah is good, and kind and generous, why is He punishing people? Why is there hell? Why not just all heaven? Why must there be hell? Right? As we are aware, Allah is just, Allah is fair. a person can be so cruel as to inflict all kinds of tortures. Like, for example, we look at the Zionists and the Palestine, how they abuse, how they tortured, how they mistreated and they killed and maim and things like that of the Palestinians. Now, is Allah going to let them go like that without being accounted for? And Allah is not fair, right? In this world, they might get away with it, but not in the next world. So that is why there must be a next world. And as mentioned by our scholars, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned himself in our Fatiha, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim is most gracious, and is Rahim is merciful. Rahman is understood to be the graciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in giving sustenance to all, be they obedient or not obedient. But Rahim is a great mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only on the obedient ones. So Allah has demarcated these two forms of, differentiated these two forms of mercies of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then we go on to Maliki Yawmiddin. So he tells us there's a day of judgment there. And he's going to be the king. He's going to be the owner, the king, depending on whether you have an alif there or not, right? And he will judge, right, for all the wrongs that people have done, injustices that have been done, and also those who work hard to secure the approbation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All right, we continue. All right, and I forgot to mention. Allah swears, swear by four incidences for items that for sure. So that is called the reason for swearing, right? The reason for swearing is that for surely whatever you have been threatened with or warned with or promised with is true, is going to happen whether you like it or not. So the swearing by Allah puts in a very strong, of course, it gives weight to the fact that whatever is said by Rasulullah about the resurrection and whatever is definitely true. Wa inna dina lawaqi. Wa inna, and surely, deen, the judgment. You say yawmiddin, day of judgment. And the word deen comes from the word dine. Dine comes from the word loan. Right? So what happens here is that when you say deen, deen also means religion. Right? So some people might say, why is it the translation here uses the word judgment and not the word religion? La waqi', like you have the waqi'ah is to befall or to occur. Lam of emphasis. Lam, la waqi', definitely a thing that will occur. Right? Surely occur. If you look at the word surely occur, it sounds of it's more of verb rather than anything else. But waqi', we can see it's a noun, right? It's an ism, right? Which means it's a thing that definitely is going to occur. All right, let's go back to deen here. The deen, why is it sometimes it is translated as the religion, and at other times it's translated as the judgment. Right. Our religion is called our deen, as mentioned, comes from what I've mentioned this quite a number of times. There's a little bit of revision, maybe, just to compare these two different translations of the word deen. Our deen, our religion, is a way of life because it is how we manage the resources that Allah has blessed us with. So these resources that Allah has blessed us with, be it intellect, be it provision, whatever it is, right, is a loan to us. And our life is all about how we manage this loan in a way that Allah wants us to. So that is our life. The religion is our life. Managing this particular, all the various faculties and facilities that Allah has blessed us with, so much so in gratitude, with having gratitude for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in separate from the gratitude, in having gratitude for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we use all these various faculties and facilities, right, to obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then comes the day of judgment. The day of judgment is the day of payback, as they say. So the loan comes in again, right? And how you manage those things that you are loaned, you will be questioned on the day of judgment, right? So Here we know it is not about the day of judgment, not about the religion, but the day of judgment, because what is promised, right, is the day of judgment, that there will be accounting. Wa inna dina lawaqi. No, the judgment will indeed is going to happen for sure. Al-waqi'at wal al-waqi'ati waqi'ah. Allah talk about surah waqi'ah, right? Wa inna dina lawaqi. Allah Almighty fulfills the promise given to his slaves in this world and the hereafter. Right? In this world, you do good to Allah, you are grateful, Allah gives you lots and lots and lots. Right, and sometimes people would see us in tribulation, and they would feel that all the good things that we do, and yet Allah puts us through tribulations. But those who understand the trials and tribulations are there to strengthen them further in their appreciation and trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whereas those people who are not obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and yet seems to be getting lots of goods, all kinds of bounties from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is actually put on trial. The more they think they are great without obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's like the man from in Surah Al-Kahfi, the two friends, or the two brothers, some say, right, in the garden, and one feels that he is loved by Allah. He says, even if the day of judgment comes, I'll get lots more. So that's what we call tadarruj, to be placed, to be tested by good things, so much so you forget Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you become more and more arrogant. Allah Almighty, whose manifestations of omnipotence are visible in the world of creation, is able to fulfill his promises. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is all powerful, he is all knowing, right? He's gonna fulfill his promise. Verses 5 and 6 serve as a reason for the oaths to such multiplicities in the natural phenomena and the distribution as promised by the prophets, including the rewards, chastisement, paradise, and hell, which are all true. Right, so 5 and 6, right? It says definitely what you are promised will occur, and surely the day of judgment will befall. So this is the reason for the oaths. 4 oaths being made of the natural phenomena and the distribution as promised by Allah Rasulullah SAW, and it actually moves on to cover the rewards, punishment, paradise, and hell, which are all true. Since the oath taken is supposed to be consistent with what is mentioned as the substantiation thereof, making mention of the multiplicities of the natural phenomenon, rain, and cloud, may make a reference to the point that despite the contradiction and dispersion of natural phenomena, Allah Almighty has removed such contradiction and dispersion through his omniscience and omnipotence, and they all constitute an orderly world. All right, so he's looking at what is being mentioned here, looking at the oaths that Allah made by all these things, right? Rain, cloud, they are separate entities, the wind, and the cloud. But because of the powers and greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he has caused them to work in tandem, right? They work in smoothly to bring about orderly world. This of the powers of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Likewise, it was promised by the prophets as to the getting together of all mankind and jinn living in dispersion and different special and temporal spheres, that on the promised day they shall get together in one single line. They will all have a single function, be you a jinn, be you a human being, right? Your main function on earth, your main role that you have to play on earth is to be a slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And all be gathered, as we know, in the next world, and it will be questioned and will be accounted for the actions. This temporarily disintegrated creatures shall unite on the day of resurrection. They are all separate entities. All these human beings, they've got their ways of doing things, and some people disagree with others, they argue. The jinns also have got their ways of doing things, but they seem to be very diverse and dispersed in their ways of things, but eventually all will come together on the day of resurrection. As all different and dispersed deeds committed in this world shall be presented to them in the books of deeds, and those committing them shall be recompensed. Good ones will get the good things, and the bad ones will get the bad things. So you do understand that from what we have here, the word wa'id, right, or wa'ad, right, you adun, right, comes from the word. Some scholars, right, put it as promise because it covers everything that Rasulullah has promised, and some prefers to take it as a threat or a warning, right, only referring to the disbelievers. Sometimes the word la sadiq actually would be there to assert on the disbelievers that this is true. Like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Surah Yasin also, right? There's ونفخ في الصور فإذا هم من الأجداث إلى ربهم ينسلون قالوا يا ويلنا من بعثنا من مرقدنا هذا ما وعد الرحمن وصدق المرسلون. This is what the most gracious has promised, and the prophets were truthful, because they are always making fun of the prophets and finding reasons to say the prophets are not truthful. They always say, if you are truthful, in kuntum sadiqin, if you all are truthful, then bring on the punishment. If you can't bring on the punishment, that means you are not truthful. But in Surah Yasin, Allah says they will be raised up from their graves, right? And they will say, oh, what's happening to us? Oh, cursed, we are cursed. You know, Ya waylana man ba'athana min marqadina, who brought us out of our graves. Allah will say, Hada ma wa'ada rahmanu. This is what is promised by the Rahman, and the prophets are true. So when you talk about that, the prophets are true, and these groups of people who are being raised up, being in a state of fright and fear, right, then we would talk about the resurrection, which the non-believers are not believing in, the Kafir Quraysh. Supported by the attributes of the winds, verses 5 and 6 assert that these warnings and promises are true, and the day of recompense will definitely happen. Right? Go back to wind and not wind and things like that. Anyway, we do understand, inshallah, by now. What the reference to the weather system indicates is that just as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses the systems to provide sustenance to people, He also uses the same systems to destroy them. Most importantly, just like He has systems in place to ensure the evaporation of water and then its precipitation and giving life to the dead earth by rain, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also has a system in place for separating the soul from the physical body and then resurrecting the body and rejoining the soul. So this is how scholars actually come to terms or come to conclusion that Allah's bringing us to look at the elements of the world makes us understand that there must be a system in place to allow us to be resurrected. The idea of resurrection was given to us, but all these elements around further confirm resurrection, right? That there is, Allah has put a system in place for separating the soul from the physical body, it's death, and then resurrecting the body and rejoining the soul. Just as it is inevitable that the vapors that rise in the atmosphere will come back, it is inevitable that people will be raised to an eternal life in the hereafter. Also, just as He has power to implement such mighty systems, He has capability to resurrect the dead. So it is at the end of the day, it is all these things are there to convince, to try. Allah has put in place many means and ways to convince people that resurrection is definitely going to happen. So in this particular verse, Allah says definitely, right, ad-din, innama tu'aduna, yeah, waqi', it's going to be. So innama tu'aduna la-sadiq, right? And Allah talks about the falling, the happening of the deed. All right, let's recite the verses. وَالذَّارِيَاتِ ذَرْوًا فَالْحَامِلَاتِ وِقْرًا فَالْجَارِيَاتِ يُسْرًا فالمقسمات أمرا إنما توعدون لصادق وإن الدين لواقع. So it's the first set of our first part of our surah. We've gone to the next set of words. Al-hubbuk, roots, past plural, hubbuk, or say roots in British is roots, in American is routes. Paths. Yu'fakun, he is deluded. Root word is afaka. The ya is he. This is surah fi'al mudari. And it is rafa. And the previous one, number 7, is ism. It's jar state. We'll look at why it is jar. Harrasun, liars. And harrasun, many, waw at the end, that's rafa. And with an alif, continuously lying. Ghamratin, bewilderment, confusion. Wassama'i dhatil hubuk. Wassama', so we can see there is another swearing, right? A wow is a wow of swearing because Hamza has got a kasra. Wassama'i dhatil jubuk. Dhatil jubuk, that is what contains. Full, right? As the translation goes on, full. Hubuk, not jubuk. What possesses hubuk? Hubuk is pathways. So now Allah goes on to another swearing. By the heaven full of paths. وَالسَّمَاءِ ذَاتِ الْحُبُكِ. وَالسَّمَاءِ ذَاتِ الْحُبُكِ. It is mudaf ilayk, a possessor of a full of pathways. And this is in jar because it is mudaf ilayh here. وَالسَّمَاءِ ذَاتِ الْحُبُكِ. Allah swears by the sky with numerous paths. The word hubuk in the original is also used for paths and for the waves which are produced on the sand of the desert and the surface of stagnant water by the wind. So if you look at the waves, if you ever go to the desert, you can see waves on the sand. Desert sand, this is when they are got sand dunes, a very sandy desert. You can see the waves, you can see tracks, wind tracks on the sand. Of course, we've seen waves before, and waves are only formed by wind. You cannot have waves without wind. Right? The wind blows the water, and the water actually, you've got trickle, the water mounts. Okay. The water ripples here. It is also spoken for curls and wavy hair. So basically anything that goes round and on, curling here and there. Here the sky has been characterized by hubuk, either because the sky is often overcast with clouds of different shapes, which go on changing because of the wind, and no shape lasts nor resembles any other. So this is curly things, moving, waving, waves. There's lots of beautiful things in the clouds. Or because at night one sees the stars scattered in the sky in many different combinations, and no combination resembles any other combination. So the beautiful stars that we see, right? So Allah is telling us by the sky. So whatever people understand by the word hubuk, by the original meaning of hubuk was the waves on the sand deserts, right? The lines and the waves, and you'll see all these marks on the desert, lots of them, right? Okay, marks. It also refers to beauty, adornment, orderly shape. The word derives from the word hubuk, habaka, denoting bind or tighten. And there's another word that comes originally from, word derives from the word. So it's derived from the word bind, and tighten is also a part of the word hubuk. All the different senses traces back to one single sense. The beauteous folds and meanders visible in waves, clouds, desert sand, hills, and hair. Beautiful paths that you see. Reference in the word to the heaven is owing to either the different forms or the masses of planets and constellations, or the fascinating meanders visible in clouds, which are at times so appealing that one may be mesmerized by them for a while. So that's basically it. Binds together titans, waves, and everything all over. It may also reflect the immense masses of galaxies appearing in spheres like curls of hair. Thus, the Quran, the Holy Quran, swears by the heaven and immense galaxies still unperceived by the sharp vision of science. Whatever is in the roots of the skies, right? So many things in the sky that science have not perceived. In the opinion of Al-Farad, the word hubub refers to the stripes and ripples which are created in the sand or stationed water when wind blows over them. From here, this word came to be used for clouds as well as because clouds also appear in the sky in the form of stacked waves and piled up layers of cotton flakes. Imru al-Qais, while praising towering castles on which clouds are overspread, said, towering castles on which clouds are overspread, is that when you look at huge clouds, they look like castles. Right? Clouds here, clouds formation, beautiful clouds formation. Hovering over these castles are red striped clouds, as if they are striped sheets of cloth. It's a description of the winter clouds and a very true description of the color and being stacked in layers. So we're not, most of us might not be able to, in Singapore, we do not see that beautiful stripes of red clouds. And because of the light and things, the dispersion and whatever, it really looks, it does mesmerize. In the light of this research by Imam Farad, this oath is sworn by the red striped winter clouds which appear with the cold northern winds and which had great role in the destruction of previous nations who had incurred the wrath of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In other words, after winds, this oath by the clouds is in effect a completion of the previous oath. The reason for this is that the wind and clouds are inseparable. Addition of this oath is meant to specially point to the destructive nature of the wind. So this opinion again, right? Moving on to warn those disbelievers. In this case, this use of hubub leads different people to different conclusions. Everyone sees it differently, but none of them has knowledge of their reality. They only form opinions based on how a matter appears to them, based on their observation and experience. However, when an astrophysicist thinks of the picture of heaven, he may think of the cosmic web, the formation of the billions of galaxies, cosmic walls, and filaments. So this is later on, right, those who have got telescopes and whatever. Long strips of streams of hot gas and dark matter that join the galaxies and galaxy clusters with each other. So this is a beautiful, you can see this is one of hubuk, right? This could be, but this is of course seen in later years, right? Now with the development of science and things like that. So these filaments and the web of galaxies have been written about by astrophysicists and depicted by the following computer model, the Millennium Simulation. This one also, right, this is an enlargement here. You see all these various tracks all over the place. Beautiful. And or even the cosmic webs of various nebulae, such as this. This is beautiful, this kind of tracks. All right. So it's evident from concomitant indication that this verse is not the muqsam alayhi. It doesn't a complement of oath. It is a reboot, sorry. This is later. This is not part of it. It should become later. All right, we'll stop here. Allahumma arhamna bil Quran waj'alhu lana imaman wa nuran wa hudan wa rahmah. Allahumma dhakkirna minhu ma nasina wa 'allimna minhu ma jahilna warzuqna tilawatahu ana al-laili wa atrafan nahar waj'alhu lana hujjatan ya rabbal alamin. Allahumma astaudiuka ma 'allamtani fardudhu ilayya waqta hajati ilayhi fala tunsinihi ya rabbal alamin. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin wassalatu wassalamu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Rabbana anfa'na bima 'allamtana, rabbi 'allimna alladhi yanfa'una, rabbi faqihna wa faqih ahlana, وقرابات لنا في ديننا مع أهل القتر أنثى وذكر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلى الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. الحمد لله. الحمد لله. السلام عليكم.